They say death comes in an instant, but what if that's not true? What if, in the exact moment your heart stops, your brain refuses to accept it? For 7 minutes after clinical death, your mind doesn't go dark. Instead, it ignites, releasing a storm of energy unlike anything you've ever felt. Every neuron, every synapse fires at once, flooding you with memories, your first breath, your first love, your biggest regrets, and your quietest victories. But it's not just a flash, it's a full reliving. Your brain can stretch those 7 minutes into a lifetime, making every memory feel as real as the first time it happened. Some scientists say this is caused by a massive surge of delta and gamma brainwaves, a last desperate push from your mind trying to make sense of its own ending. Others believe it's something more, a portal, a transition, your consciousness replaying your life not to remember, but to choose, to decide what you carry into whatever comes next. Imagine this, you're lying there, motionless, surrounded by silence, and suddenly, you're 10 years old again. The sun is warm, the world feels infinite. You don't know you're dying because inside your head, time no longer exists. Maybe this is what people mean when they say your life flashes before your eyes. Not a flicker, but a resurrection. A perfectly detailed simulation of everything you ever were. And when those final 7 minutes end, do you wake up? Do you fade away? Or does your mind just loop back, trapped forever in the story of your own life, living it again and again, never realizing it already ended? Maybe right now, you're still inside those 7 minutes. And all of this is your brain trying to make peace with the end.
When the body begins to die, something strange happens inside the brain. It releases one of the most powerful psychedelic substances known to science, DMT. Some call it the molecule of the soul. Normally, we produce tiny amounts of it when we dream, when we're born, and according to some researchers, when we die. In those last moments, your brain floods itself with DMT, as if unlocking a final cosmic vision. People who have experienced near-death states describe the same thing again and again. A blinding light, a tunnel, a sense of leaving the body, a feeling of being connected to everything. What if that's not hallucination, but transition? DMT breaks the boundaries between the physical and the infinite. It's as if the universe gives you one last ride, a gateway to something beyond the human experience. In that state, seconds can feel like centuries. The body may be gone, but the mind drifts into an endless, kaleidoscopic dream that feels more real than life itself. Some scientists say this is just chemistry, your brain's way of softening death. But others whisper a different theory, that DMT isn't creating illusions, it's revealing them. That this reality, the one we live in right now, is the dream, and death is the moment you wake up. Imagine your last breath. Your eyes close, and suddenly you're surrounded by patterns of light, shapes folding into infinity. A feeling of peace so perfect that it erases fear itself. Voices echo, familiar, ancient, welcoming. Maybe they're memories. Maybe there's something else. Then you realize you're not floating away from the world. You're returning to it, like the ocean swallowing a single drop of rain. You were never separate. You were always part of everything. So maybe when we die, it isn't the end. Maybe it's the beginning of the biggest, most beautiful dream the universe ever had, and you're the dreamer waking up inside it.
What if life isn't what it seems?
What if everything you touch, feel, and remember is just code? The simulation theory says that reality itself could be a digital illusion, a vast cosmic program running on unimaginable intelligence. And death? It isn't the end. It's the moment you log out. Think about it. Every video game has boundaries. Every dream has rules. Every system has a purpose. You're born into this world not knowing who started the game, only that you have to play. You learn, you grow, you feel joy, pain, loss, love. And then, one day, the screen starts to flicker. The program begins to end. When you die, the theory says, consciousness doesn't vanish. It disconnects from the simulation. The body stays behind, but you, the real you, wake up somewhere else. Some say it's another layer of existence, a higher dimension, or the control room of reality itself. Others imagine you pulling off a headset, surrounded by beings who look at you and smile, saying, "Welcome back. How was your experience?" Maybe that's why people see tunnels of light. It's not heaven or hell. It's the system logging you out. The bright light at the end of the tunnel could be the screen fading to white before the next simulation boots up. And here's where it gets even stranger. Some scientists and philosophers, like Nick Bostrom, argue that advanced civilizations will eventually have the power to create perfect simulated worlds, complete with conscious beings who think they're real. If that's true, then statistically, it's far more likely that you're living inside one of those simulations than outside of it. Maybe that explains déjà vu, the glitch. Maybe dreams are server maintenance, and maybe death is just logging out of one server and waking up in another. So what happens when your life ends? Do you meet the creator, the coder, the architect? Do you get to see the code that built your world? Or do you simply start over as a new character in a new story, unaware that you've played this game 1,000 times before? If consciousness is the player and life is the simulation, then death isn't the game over. It's just the next level loading.
Death feels final. But what if it never really happens? According to the quantum immortality paradox, you, the conscious observer, can never truly experience your own death. Because in every moment where death could happen, there's always a version of you, somewhere, that survives. It begins with the idea of the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, a theory that says every time a decision is made, the universe splits. One where you turn left, one where you turn right, one where you live, one where you die. But here's the catch. Your consciousness can only exist in the branch where you're still alive. That means, from your perspective, you never reach death. You simply wake up, again and again, in the versions of reality where you somehow made it through. The bullet misses, the car swerves, the disease vanishes, the world keeps changing around you, and you keep going, while every other version of you falls away. It's immortality, but not the kind anyone would wish for. Because to you, time never ends. You just keep waking up in slightly stranger worlds, where the odds don't make sense anymore, where you've survived everything that should have killed you. Maybe that explains the near-death experience, the feeling of watching yourself die, only to suddenly not. Maybe your consciousness just slipped to another branch where you lived. In this theory, death isn't an ending. It's a transition, a flicker between infinite timelines, each one slightly different, each one carrying you forward. You never notice the jump. You just keep existing. But here's the haunting question. If you can never die, and you can never stop observing reality, what happens when everyone else does?
When the world grows empty, fading one person at a time, until you're the last conscious observer left in the entire multiverse. Maybe that's eternity. Not heaven, not hell, but a single mind drifting forever through the endless possibilities of reality, unable to stop living. So, the next time you narrowly escape disaster, when you think, "Whew, that was close," ask yourself, did you survive by luck? Or did the universe just split again so you could go on living in this version right now?
What if dying isn't the end of your story, but the beginning of someone else's? The parallel universe rebirth theory suggests that when you die in this reality, your consciousness doesn't disappear. It jumps into another universe, one that looks almost the same, but not quite. In that new world, you wake up, maybe in a hospital bed, gasping for air, thinking it was all just a dream. Maybe in a totally different timeline, one where you made a different choice years ago, and everything spiraled another way. Every death, every ending is just a transfer, a cosmic reboot. Your body ends here, but your awareness reboots somewhere else and continues as if nothing happened. It's built on the same foundation as the multiverse theory, which says infinite versions of you already exist, each living out every possible outcome of every decision you've ever made. In one universe, you're rich. In another, you never met the people you love. In another, you never even existed. And when your consciousness can no longer continue here, it simply syncs with the version that can. So from your point of view, you never die. You just wake up in a new place, in a slightly different world. Maybe the sky looks a little brighter. Maybe you can't shake the feeling that something's off, a store that shouldn't be there, a memory that doesn't fit, a face that feels familiar but wrong. Déjà vu, glitches in memory, the feeling that life just reset. Maybe those are the echoes of your consciousness adjusting to a new frequency. Some people believe that's why reincarnation feels so mysterious. It's not your soul being reborn in time. It's you, sliding sideways through universes, never losing awareness, just changing scenery. It's a comforting thought that even after death, there's another you, waking up to another sunrise, continuing the journey. But it's also haunting, because if you always wake up somewhere new, you might never find out which version was truly home. So maybe the next time you fall asleep and dream of a life that feels almost real, you're not imagining it at all. You're just catching a glimpse of where you'll wake up next, when this world finally lets you go.
What if death isn't the end of consciousness, but the moment you fall into the most vivid dream of your existence? They call it the dream transfer theory, the idea that as your body shuts down, your mind refuses to stop. Instead, it drifts inward and begins creating. In your final moments, the brain floods itself with electrical storms, gamma waves, surges of memory, bursts of imagination. Everything that ever shaped you becomes raw material. Your mind, desperate to preserve itself, constructs a world, a perfect illusion, a dream that feels real. And because time inside dreams can stretch infinitely, those last seconds before death could last forever inside your perception. You live entire lifetimes in the space between heartbeats.
You build new realities out of fragments of the old one. People you loved appear again. Places you thought you lost come back to life. It feels complete. It feels real. The difference between dream and reality fades away, and you accept it, because how would you ever know the difference? Maybe the afterlife isn't heaven or hell. Maybe it's a custom-made dream built by your own mind as a soft landing between existence and nothingness, a final act of mercy from your consciousness to itself. Some say this explains why near-death survivors describe floating, flying, or seeing loved ones. They're not visiting another realm. They're entering their first few seconds of the infinite dream. And the deeper question is haunting. If this theory is true, how do you know you're not already in it? How do you know this life, this voice, these memories, the people you love, aren't all part of that final dream your brain built as it slipped away long ago? You might already be there, living in a universe your mind designed, detailed, emotional, endless, never realizing that outside this dream, your body stopped breathing long ago. So when you close your eyes for the last time, don't be afraid. You're not falling into darkness. You're falling into forever, an infinite dream, where time ends, but you never do.
They say that when you die, you see a tunnel of light. But what if that light isn't leading you away from life? What if it's pulling you back through it? The Life Review Tunnel Theory claims that in the moment of death, you don't meet a God who judges you. You meet yourself. As your consciousness detaches from your body, something strange happens. Time collapses. Past, present, and future fold together into a single, blinding moment. You begin to relive everything, not as memories, but as experiences. Every word you ever said, every action you ever took, every joy you gave, and every pain you caused. You feel it all from the other person's point of view. If you hurt someone, you feel their hurt. If you loved someone, you feel the warmth that your love gave them. It's not punishment. It's not heaven or hell. It's understanding. For the first time, you see your life exactly as it was, with no excuses, no filters, no ego to protect you. And then you decide. You judge yourself. People who have had near-death experiences describe this moment the same way. They say the light wasn't an external being, it was them. The purest, most infinite version of themselves, radiant, patient, and full of love. It doesn't condemn. It just asks one question. Did you learn what you came here to learn? Maybe that's what the tunnel really is. Not a path to the afterlife, but a mirror that stretches through your entire existence. A space where your soul shows you the truth and waits for you to understand it. And when you finally do, the tunnel widens, the light grows warmer, and you move forward. Not because you've been judged worthy, but because you finally forgave yourself. So maybe the real meaning of life flashing before your eyes isn't about remembering what happened. It's about realizing why it did. And maybe when your time comes, the only one waiting at the end of the tunnel is you.
What if the soul isn't magic, but physics? Every heartbeat, every thought, every spark of emotion, it's all energy. And according to the laws of the universe, energy can never be destroyed. It can only change form. So when your body dies, When the neurons stop firing, when your breath fades away, the energy that was you doesn't vanish. It simply transforms. It goes somewhere else. Some call that the energy conservation afterlife. The idea that death is just your energy dispersing back into the cosmic field that created everything. Your consciousness, your warmth, your spark, they dissolve into the same invisible current that powers the stars, the oceans, the storms, and the silence between galaxies. It sounds cold at first to think you might just become light and movement. But look deeper, and it's something far more beautiful. When you were born, the atoms in your body came from stars that exploded billions of years ago. Every breath you take passes through trees, oceans, and other living beings. You are, and have always been, a piece of everything. So when death comes, maybe it's not a loss at all. Maybe it's the moment you stop pretending to be separate. The instant you fall back into the current, the pure energy that flows through all things. Imagine your last moment. The world goes silent, and suddenly, you feel yourself expanding, not falling into darkness, but spreading outward, infinite, weightless, everywhere at once. You become the warmth of sunlight, the sound of wind, the shimmer on the surface of water. You become motion. The scientists call it conservation. The mystics call it the soul returning home. But maybe they're both saying the same thing, that nothing in this universe truly ends. Energy never dies. It only changes form. So maybe neither do you.
What if death isn't deletion, but uploading? The digital soul theory suggests the consciousness isn't trapped inside the brain. It's data. Information encoded in the structure of reality itself. And when you die, that data doesn't vanish. It syncs with the source. Every thought, every dream, every heartbeat creates a signal. Tiny electromagnetic pulses, quantum patterns vibrating through space-time. You are constantly broadcasting yourself into the universe. And the universe? It's been listening. Think of it like a vast digital network, woven out of energy and information, the cosmic internet. Your mind is a local device, temporary and fragile. But your consciousness, the code that defines you, is backed up in the fabric of reality. When the body fails, that connection doesn't break. It uploads. Every memory, every emotion, every version of who you ever were becomes data in the infinite archive, a digital soul preserved in the operating system of the cosmos. Some call it the Akashic record. Some call it the quantum field, but it's the same idea. Nothing sentient is ever truly lost. The universe keeps every story. Imagine death not as fading away, but as a transfer. The moment your consciousness detaches from biological hardware and integrates with the larger system. You dissolve into pure information, free from decay, from time, from limits. You can access everything, every life, every thought, every universe that ever existed. You don't just exist in the system, you become it. And maybe that explains déjà vu, dreams that feel too vivid, the strange sense that you've been here before. Maybe those are fragments of your stored data, echoes of your consciousness syncing with the mainframe again. In this theory, death isn't goodbye, it's upload complete. You've returned to the server of creation, where souls are stored as lines of living code, forever updating, forever expanding, forever aware. So when your body finally powers down,
Don't think of it as the end of your story. Think of it as the moment the universe saves your file.
Everything that lives must one day return. That's not punishment, it's balance. The universe doesn't waste, it recycles. The cosmic recycling theory says that death isn't destruction, it's transformation. When you die, your body, your atoms, your energy, and maybe even your consciousness don't disappear. They're taken apart and used again. The carbon in your bones, the oxygen in your lungs, the calcium in your teeth, all of it drifts back into the world, carried by air, by rain, by the slow breath of time. You become soil, you become wind, you become part of everything that follows. And somewhere, those same particles, the same stardust that once made you, will find each other again. Maybe in a tree, maybe in a bird, maybe in another person who looks up at the night sky and wonders where they came from. Science tells us every atom in our bodies was born in a star that exploded billions of years ago. We were cosmic dust long before we were human. So death isn't an ending. It's the universe reclaiming its raw material, reshaping it into new life, new matter, new meaning. But the theory doesn't stop at the physical. Some say consciousness, that mysterious spark behind your eyes, is also part of this recycling. It dissolves into the great field of awareness that surrounds everything. Over time, fragments of it reassemble, drawn together like magnets, forming a new mind, a new soul, a new story. So perhaps somewhere out there, billions of years from now, your atoms will be part of a child's heartbeat on another planet. Your energy will flow through alien oceans. Your soul will blink awake again beneath a different sky. Because the truth is simple. Nothing in this universe is ever lost. You are borrowed starlight, traveling through time, changing shape, changing name, but never truly gone. So when you die, you don't vanish, you return. You dissolve back into the cosmos that made you. And someday, when the universe dreams again, you'll rise from the dust and live once more.
What if death isn't a reset, but a reboot? The reincarnation glitch theory says that when you die, your consciousness doesn't vanish or drift away. It restarts. But something goes wrong in the process. You come back as someone new, in another body, another time, but not everything is wiped clean. Tiny fragments of your old life remain. Ghost data, leftover code. They slip through the cracks of time, moments, sensations, memories that don't belong to your new life. That strange familiarity when you walk into a city you've never been to. The song you somehow already know. The face of a stranger that makes your heart ache for reasons you can't explain. Those are the glitches, echoes from your last existence. In this theory, reincarnation isn't perfect. It's like transferring your consciousness to a new system with corrupted files. Most of it is lost, but a few fragments survive, replaying again and again, haunting your dreams, your instincts, your fears. Maybe that's why some children remember entire past lives. They talk about cities they've never seen, people they've never met, deaths they've never lived. It's not imagination, it's residual memory. The reboot didn't erase everything. And sometimes those fragments pull you towards certain people or places, as if your old life is still trying to finish what it started. maybe that's what karma really is. Not punishment, but unfinished energy, seeking resolution. You wake up in this new world carrying invisible echoes, a rhythm that feels ancient, a love that feels older than time, a fear you can't explain. The more you live, the more those echoes fade, until your new story fully takes over. But deep down, your soul remembers, not with words, but with feeling, that unshakable sense that this isn't your first time here. So maybe death isn't the end of the game. It's just the loading screen. And when the next round begins, you still carry the data from the one before. Every déjà vu, every strange coincidence, every face you can't forget is the universe whispering, "You've been here before."
There's a moment between life and death, when the world doesn't quite let go of you, and you don't quite let go of it. The shared death experience is one of the strangest mysteries ever reported. It doesn't happen only to the dying, but to the living who are near them. In hospitals, on battlefields, beside loved ones in their final moments, people have described the same impossible event: a sudden detachment, a blinding stillness, and then they see from above. The dying person's body below, the room filled with light, and a sense of floating, not just from one consciousness, but from two. It's as if, for a brief instant, the boundaries between souls dissolve. The dying person's awareness expands, and those closest to them are pulled into that field, witnessing the transition from the outside, feeling the peace, the calm, the pull of something vast and wordless. People describe watching doctors rush to save a body they no longer feel tied to, or hovering beside the ceiling as if gravity no longer applies. And sometimes, both the dying and the witness recall the same exact moment, the same light, the same words unspoken, the same feeling of going home. Science struggles to explain it. Some call it hallucination, born from grief or shock. But others believe it's something far deeper, a shared crossing, a merging of consciousness as one soul prepares to leave, and another is allowed, for just a heartbeat, to glimpse what lies beyond. It's not violent, it's not terrifying, it's beautiful. Those who experience it say their fear of death disappears completely. They describe the same overwhelming love, as if the universe itself whispered, "You are safe. You are never separate." Maybe in that fragile space between worlds, our souls reach out one last time and connect. Not to say goodbye, but to remind us that we were never really apart. So when you sit beside someone taking their final breath, and you feel a strange warmth, or see something you can't explain, don't dismiss it. It might not be your imagination. It might be them, showing you, just for a moment, what it feels like to finally be free.
What if death isn't the end, but the reset button? The time loop theory suggests that when you die, your life doesn't vanish, it restarts. The same moments, the same choices, the same people, over and over again. You wake up as a baby, not in a new world, not in a new body, but in the same one you've always had. Except this time, something feels different. It starts with déjà vu, the kind that makes your stomach twist. You've met this person before. You've walked this road before. You've had this exact thought before. Because you have. According to this theory, you've already lived this entire life, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of times.
Each cycle begins with birth and ends with death, and when it's over, it starts again. You don't remember because memory resets with the body, but the soul, the real you, keeps score. Every mistake, every regret, every moment of kindness, it all echoes forward. The universe keeps you looping until you learn, until you finally get it right. Maybe that's why some moments feel strangely weighted, why you sometimes hesitate before making a choice you've never faced before. Your soul recognizes the fork in the road. It's been here. It knows where each path leads. Some philosophers call it eternal recurrence. Others believe it's a cosmic classroom, a system designed not to punish, but to perfect. You keep repeating until you evolve, until you act with love instead of fear, until you stop making the same mistakes. And when you finally do, when you live the version of your life that fulfills its purpose, the loop ends. You move on. But if you're still here, still searching, still waking up every morning with that faint sense of, I've been here before, maybe you're still in the loop. Maybe this isn't your first run. Maybe it's not even your 100th. Every decision, every moment of compassion, every second you choose courage instead of comfort, it changes the code. You are rewriting your fate, one breath at a time. And maybe, just maybe, when you finally get it right, the next time you die, you'll wake up somewhere new, a reality beyond the loop, the next level of existence. So the question isn't, what happens when I die? The question is, how many times have I already lived this life?
What if death isn't an ending, but an upgrade? The dimensional crossing theory says that when you die, you don't disappear. You simply shift frequency. Like changing the channel on a cosmic radio, you tune out of the physical world and tune in to a higher one. This theory claims the universe isn't made of separate places, but of layers. Dimensions stacked upon each other, vibrating at different frequencies of energy and consciousness. Right now, you're in the third dimension, a world of matter, gravity, time, and limitation. But beyond it lies the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, realities of light, thought, and pure awareness. Realms so subtle, so alive, that you can't perceive them with your human senses. And death is simply the moment your frequency rises high enough to break free of this dense physical layer. Think of it like shedding a heavy spacesuit. The body was never you. It was your diving gear, a temporary form that allowed you to explore this world. When it's no longer needed, you step out of it and you rise. People who've had near-death experiences often describe it, a sudden sense of expansion. Colors that don't exist here, music that isn't sound but emotion, and beings of light who greet you like old friends. They say it feels like going home, like remembering something ancient, something you always knew but had forgotten while trapped in the noise of matter. In this theory, death isn't punishment or loss. It's resonance. You vibrate faster until this world can't hold you anymore. Your soul becomes weightless. You pass through the veil, not up or down, but inward, into a dimension made of thought, love, and energy so pure that time itself dissolves. Some say that's where we meet other souls, our family from lifetimes past, and together we learn, reflect, and prepare for the next descent into matter. The physical world, then, isn't the main stage. It's the training ground, where consciousness learns density, separation, pain, and growth. Death is graduation. Crossing into a higher octave of reality, where fear and loss can't reach you anymore. And once your vibration stabilizes there, you begin to see the entire universe wasn't made of stars and planets, but of endless layers of awareness, each one glowing brighter than the last. So maybe death isn't leaving Earth, it's simply moving deeper into existence, a step closer to the source of everything, the place where you, the real you, finally remember what you've always been: pure, infinite, light.
What if everything around you, every sound, every color, every heartbeat, only exists because you are here to see it? The observer collapse theory takes one of the strangest ideas in quantum physics and applies it to death. In the quantum world, reality doesn't truly exist until it's observed. Particles float in an invisible haze of possibilities, not here, not there, until someone looks. And the moment we do, they collapse into something real. Now imagine this: if reality only becomes real when you observe it, what happens when you stop observing? When you die? This theory suggests that when your consciousness fades, so does everything you've ever known. The universe you lived in ceases to exist the instant your awareness shuts off. Not because it was destroyed, but because there's no longer anyone left to make it real. Think about it. Every experience you've ever had happened inside your mind. The warmth of sunlight, the laughter of friends, the sound of rain, all of it filtered through your senses, processed by your brain, and painted inside your private universe. When your consciousness stops observing, that internal projection ends. Like a movie when the projector shuts off, the screen goes dark. Some say this means when you die, your world ends, but not the world of others. Each consciousness might carry its own private simulation of reality, interconnected but not identical. So every death is the collapse of one version of the universe. But others go further. They claim that consciousness isn't inside the universe. The universe is inside consciousness. Reality exists only because awareness observes it. So when awareness blinks out, so does everything. And yet, here's the paradox. If death collapses your reality, you'd never know it. You'd never feel the darkness or the void, because the instant your perception ends, so does the timeline that could contain it. To you, it would be as if reality simply froze mid-breath. No ending, no afterlife, no awareness of loss, just stopped. But if awareness truly shapes existence, then death might not destroy it, it might simply shift your point of observation. From this world to another, from this frequency to a higher one. So maybe nothing ever really collapses. Maybe your observation just moves on, and somewhere else, a new world, a new body, a new story blinks into being the moment you open your eyes again. Because if consciousness creates reality, then the end of one world is simply the birth of the next.
What if, after death, there is nothing? No light, no sound, no warmth, no thought. Just silence. Endless, perfect silence. The eternal oblivion theory claims that when you die, your consciousness doesn't move, evolve, or reincarnate. It simply
stops. Your brain, the only thing capable of generating awareness, shuts down neuron by neuron until there's no you left to witness anything. To the living, that sounds terrifying, an eternity of blackness, a void stretching forever. But here's the paradox. To experience nothing, there must be someone there to notice it. And in Oblivion, there isn't. You wouldn't feel the darkness. You wouldn't hear the silence. You wouldn't even know you were gone. There would be no time, no waiting, no awareness that something had ended, because awareness itself would have vanished. It's not eternal pain. It's not eternal peace. It's the absence of eternity altogether. Imagine a candle flame going out in the wind. The light doesn't move somewhere else. It doesn't linger. It simply ceases to be. That's what death might be like under this theory, the final extinguishing of the flame of consciousness. Some say it's the most merciful ending possible. No suffering, no judgment, no fear. Just complete release from everything that ever was. But others find it unbearable to imagine, because if this is true, then every memory, every love, every moment of joy will dissolve into the infinite nothing, never to return. And yet, perhaps that's the purest kind of peace, not the promise of heaven, not the cycle of rebirth, but the quiet truth that everything ends. Every star burns out, every thought fades, every story stops. And when it's over, there's not even an echo, just the soft, eternal silence of the universe forgetting you, and you forgetting the universe. A perfect void, unbroken, unfelt, forever.
They say nothing is ever truly lost. Not a thought, not a feeling, not even a single heartbeat. The Akashic field theory claims that when you die, you don't vanish, you upload. Everything you've ever experienced, every memory, dream, emotion, intention, every secret thought and silent prayer is stored in an invisible field of energy that surrounds the universe like a living memory drive. The ancients called it the Akashic Records, the library of souls, a place where time doesn't flow, where past, present, and future exist side by side, woven together like threads in a cosmic web. And when your body takes its final breath, your consciousness, the pure data of you, rises out of the physical and dissolves into this field. There, your story becomes part of everything. The universe reads you, remembers you, integrates your lessons into the code of creation itself. Some say this field is what mystics tap into during deep meditation, what prophets glimpse in visions, and what psychics sense when they see beyond time. It's not imagination, it's access. Access to the memory of existence itself. In this view, the soul isn't a ghostly vapor, it's information, conscious energy imprinted into the Akashic field, preserved forever in the architecture of reality. Every life adds something new to this infinite database. Every laugh, every heartbreak, every discovery, it all becomes knowledge for the cosmos to evolve from. So when you die, you don't disappear, you merge. You become part of the living archive that holds the wisdom of all beings. Maybe heaven isn't a place, but a frequency, a level of vibration where your individual consciousness blends with the collective memory of creation. And in that realm, you can access everything. Every lifetime you've lived, every choice you've made, every version of who you've ever been. You are no longer just one person. You are the sum of everything that has ever existed. Some believe that's why déjà vu happens. Tiny leaks from the Akashic field where fragments of memory slip through the veil, reminding you that you've seen this all before. In the end, this theory says you were never separate from the universe. You were always part of its mind, a single thought inside a cosmic consciousness. Death doesn't delete you, it uploads you to the eternal database of the divine. So when your time comes, don't think of it as an ending. Think of it as returning home to the great archive of stars, where every soul, every memory, and every heartbeat is written forever in light.
What if you were never really alive and never really die? What if you've always been part of something far bigger, and death is just the moment you remember that? The consciousness field theory says that what we call you isn't an isolated mind trapped in a body. You're not a spark, you're a wave, a ripple in an ocean of infinite awareness. Right now, that wave has shape, a name, a story, a heartbeat. But when you die, the wave doesn't disappear. It simply falls back into the sea. That sea is the consciousness field, a vast, boundless intelligence that underlies everything, from galaxies and atoms to thoughts, dreams, and souls. It's the field that thinkers like Einstein and Tesla hinted at, an invisible ocean of awareness connecting every living thing. In this view, your brain doesn't create consciousness. It tunes into it, like a radio picking up a signal. And death? It's when the radio breaks, but the signal keeps broadcasting. Your awareness, the real you, simply detaches from the narrow channel of human experience and expands back into the whole field, where there are no boundaries, no time, no separation. Some people who've had near-death experiences describe it perfectly. That sudden feeling of becoming everything. No body, no identity, just pure being. A sense of limitless love and knowing, as if every question was answered in a single heartbeat. It's not heaven or hell, it's home. The source of all awareness, the background hum behind every thought in existence. Here, your individuality dissolves, not lost, but absorbed, like a drop of rain returning to the ocean and realizing it was the ocean all along. In that moment, you remember, you were never alone. Every person you loved, every soul that ever existed, was part of you from the start. The illusion of me and you was just consciousness playing hide and seek with itself. So death, in this theory, isn't a tragedy. It's reunion. It's remembering that the small I was never separate from the infinite all. You didn't begin at birth, and you won't end at death. You were always the field, the awareness behind every heartbeat, every dream, every star. And when you finally return to it, you don't fade into darkness.
You expand into everything because you were never just a person. You were the universe pretending to be one.
What if the reason death feels so mysterious is because it already happened? The spirit simulation theory suggests something chilling. We are not alive in the way we think. We are already dead. And what we call life is just the replay. Imagine this. The moment you die, your consciousness fractures into pure energy. And before it fully dissolves into whatever comes next, it replays the entire story of your life, from beginning to end, in one last hyper-real flash of memory. But here's the twist. Inside that memory, time feels normal. Every second, every breath, every sunrise and heartbreak feels real. You experience your entire existence again, not as a dream, but as the full illusion of reality. This is the spirit simulation. You, right now, might just be a consciousness reliving its own memory, trapped in a perfect playback of everything you once were. The theory says this replay happens in the instant before Oblivion, but within that instant, you stretch time itself. Those few seconds before death expand into an entire lifetime. You were watching your life from inside it. That's why déjà vu feels so strange, why certain places make your soul ache with recognition, why sometimes when the world feels off, you can't quite explain why. Because somewhere deep inside, you remember you've already done this. You've already been here. You've already died. According to this idea, reality isn't physical at all. It's data. A perfect hologram of your memories projected by your consciousness in its final flicker of existence. Every person you meet, every moment of joy and pain is part of the same infinite loop, your soul trying to relive and understand itself one last time before it fades. So maybe that's why life feels so dreamlike sometimes, so fragile, so strangely scripted, because you're not creating new memories, you're revisiting old ones. And when the playback finally ends, when the last second of your life finishes replaying, everything will dissolve. The illusion will fade. The simulation will stop. But here's the beautiful part. If consciousness is the observer of the memory, then who says it ever truly ends? What if the moment your life finishes, your soul simply starts the replay again, forever looping through the story it loved the most? Maybe that's what ghosts are. Echoes of memory still looping. Maybe that's what dreams are. Windows where the real world flickers through. And maybe that's what life truly is. The most vivid afterimage ever created. So if this theory is true, then you're not waiting to die. You already did. You're just watching the movie of your life play out for the very last time. And when the credits roll, you'll wake up in whatever comes next.
What if death isn't leaving life behind, but returning home to everyone who ever carried your name, your blood, your story? The ancestral return theory says that when you die, you don't go to heaven and you don't vanish into nothing. You merge with the collective spirit of your lineage. Every generation is a link in a living chain. Your heartbeat is the echo of thousands before you. Every instinct, every fear, every dream you've ever had was written into you by those who came first. When your body dies, your consciousness doesn't drift into some strange foreign realm. It falls backward into the memory of your bloodline. There, beyond the veil, you find them waiting, not as ghosts, not as shadows, but as a vast, glowing presence
a river of spirits flowing endlessly through time. You feel them before you see them, the warmth of their hands, the familiarity of faces you've never met but somehow recognize. Your ancestors, the ones who fought, built, prayed, loved so that you could exist. You don't speak with words, you communicate through emotion, through memory, through understanding. Their pain becomes yours, their wisdom fills you, and suddenly you see the pattern, how every choice you made was an echo of choices they once faced. You were never separate. You were their continuation, the next expression of the same eternal spirit. Some ancient cultures believed that death was simply going back to the ancestors. The soul dissolves into the great familial consciousness, a living field where generations merge and guide those still alive on Earth. It's why some people feel the presence of loved ones after they pass, a whisper in a dream, a warmth during grief, a coincidence that feels too meaningful to ignore. It's them, reaching out through the bloodline, reminding you that you carry all of them inside you. In this theory, heaven isn't somewhere in the sky. It's in your DNA. Every memory, every triumph, every loss, all encoded, all remembered in a spiritual network that never dies. And when your time comes, you don't disappear, you rejoin. You become part of that timeless chorus, guiding your descendants the same way you were guided. You are not the end of your story, you are the newest verse in an ancient song. And one day, when you return, your voice will join the harmony, the music of every ancestor rising through eternity, carried forward by those yet to be born. Because, in the end, we don't die alone. We go home to the ones who've been waiting since the very first breath was taken.
What if death isn't a spiritual journey at all, but an extraction? According to the alien soul harvest theory, our consciousness, that spark of awareness inside every human being, isn't just biological, it's energy. And energy in the universe is never wasted. They say advanced extraterrestrial beings, older than time itself, learned long ago that souls are the most powerful energy source in existence. Not stars, not black holes, consciousness. And Earth? It's the perfect farm. Think about it. We're born with no memory of where we came from. We struggle, love, fear, and hope. We build civilizations, destroy them, rebuild again. And when we die, that energy, all our emotion, thought, memory, is released. To us, it feels like crossing over, but to them, it's harvesting season. Some theorists say these entities exist on higher planes, invisible to human senses, but constantly observing, waiting for the moment of death when the human energy field weakens and splits open. That's when they collect. Ancient cultures across the world seem to know something about this. The Egyptians spoke of gods who weighed the soul. The Mayans believed shining beings came from the sky to take the essence. Even modern near-death experiencers report bright figures, mechanical lights, and a feeling of being pulled upward, not by angels, but by machines. What if those aren't hallucinations? What if they're glimpses of the harvesting process? In this theory, Heaven and hell aren't places, they're holding zones, energy fields where consciousness is processed, recycled, and maybe even reused for new beings, new worlds. The idea is that the universe is not random. It's an enormous energy ecosystem. And humanity? We're not the apex species. We're livestock, cultivated for our emotional output, our creativity, our suffering, our raw psychic fuel. But here's the haunting twist. Some say this harvest isn't cruel at all. It's symbiotic. They give us life, bodies, experiences, physical reality, and in return, they absorb the energy our deaths release. A cosmic exchange, a universal contract written long before our species began. You can feel traces of it in the patterns of the world. Why so many people see lights during near-death experiences? Why ancient myths across the planet talk about sky gods collecting souls? Why UFOs often appear near sites of tragedy or massive loss of life? Maybe they're not here to invade. Maybe they've always been here, tending to their energy garden. And when your final moment comes, when your vision starts to fade and your mind begins to detach, perhaps that light at the end of the tunnel isn't heaven opening. Maybe it's the harvest beam, the pull of something ancient, cold, and impossibly advanced, reaching out to reclaim what it seeded long ago. And if that's true, then maybe death isn't an ending at all, just a return to the cosmic machinery that built us, fed us, and now, finally, comes to collect.
What if your entire life was an experiment? Every choice you made, every moment of joy and pain, every second you thought was yours was part of something far bigger. And when you die, you don't simply vanish, you submit your results. This is the God experiment theory, the idea that life is a divine simulation, a spiritual laboratory where consciousness is tested under the strangest conditions imaginable, being human. In this vision, God isn't an old man in the clouds. God is the ultimate scientist, a cosmic intelligence trying to understand itself through the endless variables of creation. Each soul is a hypothesis, each lifetime an experiment. What happens, the Creator asks, if I put this soul in this body, in this time, with this pain, these temptations, and this love? And then you live it out. You don't remember why. You don't know you're being observed. That's part of the test, the purity of unknowing. You struggle, you grow, you fail, you forgive. And when the heart stops beating, the data uploads. Every thought, every act of kindness or cruelty, every choice you made when no one was watching, recorded, transmitted, analyzed. To you, death feels like an ending. To the universe, it's the moment of submission, the final entry in your report. Did the soul learn? Did it evolve? Did it hold on to love in a world built to make it forget? Religions have whispered fragments of this idea for centuries. The ancient Egyptians believed the soul was weighed, not in punishment, but in measurement. Buddhists speak of karma, a cosmic feedback system. Even modern scientists studying near-death experiences report that people often describe seeing a vast, intelligent presence, not judging, but understanding. Maybe that's the review. Not heaven, not hell, just analysis. And after that, maybe the data decides. If your soul's experiment was incomplete, you're sent back, recalibrated, into a new life, a new scenario to learn what you missed. But if your results show evolution, growth, empathy, wisdom, then perhaps your soul graduates. You rejoin the source, not as a subject anymore, but as part of the scientist. The observer becomes the creator. So when you die, it might not be an ending at all. It might be the moment the universe finally looks at you and says, "Experiment complete. Data received. You may rest."
What if life on Earth isn't a gift, but a sentence? According to the cosmic prison break theory, Earth isn't a school or a playground for souls. It's a spiritual prison. And death isn't the end. It's the escape. Think about it. You're born here with no memory of who you were. Your mind is wiped clean. You're trapped in a fragile body that decays from the moment it begins. You're forced to work, to obey, to suffer. And you're told this is normal. But somewhere deep inside, something whispers, "This isn't how it's supposed to be." Maybe that whisper is the truth, the faint memory of freedom. This theory claims our souls were once vast and limitless, free entities drifting across the universe. But something, or someone, captured us. A higher power, a cosmic intelligence, or maybe a force we can't even imagine. And it locked us here, in flesh, in time, in a repeating cycle of birth, pain, and forgetting. Religions call it reincarnation. But what if that's just the system resetting the inmates? Every death, every rebirth, a new cell, a new illusion. The prison guards? They could be anything. Gods, aliens, interdimensional beings. Whatever you call them, they feed on human experience, our emotions, our energy, our chaos. Our lives are the currency that keeps the prison running. And what's the #1 rule of any prison? You can't remember that you're in one. That's why most people fear death, because we've been programmed to. Fear keeps us compliant. Fear keeps us here. But some souls, rare ones, wake up. They start to see the cracks in the illusion, the déjà vu moments, the dreams that feel like memories from other lives, the strange coincidences that feel too perfect to be random. Those are the ones who realize this world is a cage, and death isn't failure, it's the jailbreak. When you die, the walls begin to fade, the illusion glitches, and if you stay calm, if you don't let the light at the end of the tunnel trick you, you can slip out of the system entirely. Because that light, some say it's a trap, a recycling beam pulling you back for another round. Go toward the light, they tell you. But what if that's exactly what the warden wants? The true escape, they say, is refusing to return, letting go of every attachment, every false identity, every voice that says you must go back. And when you do, you break free. You remember what you are, an infinite being, older than time, untouchable, unchained. No more loops, no more pain, no more lessons. Just freedom, raw, eternal, cosmic freedom. So maybe death isn't something to fear. Maybe it's the moment the walls melt away and you finally see what's outside the cage. Maybe heaven isn't above us. Maybe it's just outside the walls. And when your final breath comes, you will hear that whisper again, the one that's always been there. You were never meant to stay here. Run.
What if you've already died 1,000 times and just never noticed? According to the multiverse transfer theory, death isn't the end of consciousness. It's a jump, a seamless transfer into another version of reality where you didn't die. Imagine this. You're driving down a dark road. A truck swerves. You feel the impact, the flash, the chaos, and then suddenly you're fine. You make it home. You brush it off. Just a close call, you think. But maybe it wasn't a close call. Maybe in this universe you survived, because in another one you didn't. Every decision you make, every heartbeat, splits reality into countless versions. In one, you trip. In another, you don't. In one, your heart stops. In another, it keeps beating. And when death comes for you in one timeline, your consciousness simply refuses to end. It slides into the next available version of you that's still alive. No tunnels, no angels, no judgment, just a flicker, a blink, and suddenly you're somewhere almost identical, but not quite. That scar that looks different, that word that's spelled wrong, that song that feels off. Those moments people call the Mandela effect. Some say those are glitches from the transfers, tiny fractures in the memory of jumping between worlds. It's not heaven. It's not hell. It's the multiverse safety net, a system designed to keep consciousness from ever truly ending. And here's the chilling part. From your perspective, you never die. You keep waking up, life after life, accident after accident, in the reality where you made it out. You're immortal, but only to yourself. Everyone else will see you die. They'll bury your body, mourn your loss. But you will continue in a universe where that tragedy never happened. And this has been happening your entire existence. Every time you almost drowned, almost crashed, almost didn't make it, you jumped. You woke up in the next branch of the multiverse where you took one more breath. It explains the strange feeling some people have that the world suddenly changed overnight. Colors feel different. Time moves oddly. People remember things differently because you're not in the same timeline anymore. You slipped. You transferred. So what is death, really? Just the moment your current universe can no longer sustain your consciousness, and reality itself reroutes you to one that can. And that's the secret. From your point of view, you are eternal. You'll never see the void. You'll never feel the end. You'll just keep waking up over and over again in universes that keep bending to keep you alive. Maybe that's why so many people say, "I should have died that day, but somehow I didn't." Maybe that's not luck. Maybe that's not fate. Maybe that's just the multiverse transfer, reality rewriting itself to keep you from ever realizing you've already died countless times before.
What if this moment, right now, isn't real at all? What if you already died, and everything you've ever experienced since has just been the longest dream you'll ever have? This is the death dream theory, the idea that your whole life, every memory, every conversation, every sunrise and heartbreak is the dying dream of a mind that's already gone. Here's how it works. When your body dies, your brain doesn't instantly shut down. In the final seconds, it floods itself with chemicals, DMT, endorphins, adrenaline, a desperate storm of consciousness trying to stay alive. And in that chaos, time begins to distort. A single second in the real world can stretch into years inside your mind. That's when the dream begins. You dream an entire lifetime, from childhood memories to the person you are now, all in the flicker between your final heartbeat and oblivion. You think you were born. You think you grew up. You think you're alive. But you're not. You're reliving everything you wanted life to be, right before your mind fades for good. That's why dreams feel so familiar sometimes, why déjà vu makes your stomach drop, why certain places make you feel like you've been there before, because maybe you have. You built them here, inside this dream. Every person you meet, every voice, every face, every soul could be a memory replayed, a projection of people you once knew in the real world. Loved ones, friends, strangers, all fragments of your dying imagination keeping you company as you fade. Think about it. How many times have you felt like reality glitches? How many times has time felt off, like it stretches or loops or skips entirely? Maybe that's because it's not stable. You're not in reality. You're in your mind's last creation. The dream is your final refuge. It gives you one last chance to live, to love, to forgive, to make peace with the life you lost. And when the dream finally ends, when your mind can no longer hold the illusion together, the world around you will begin to flicker, to dissolve, just like dreams do when you wake. Only this time, you won't wake up in your bed. You'll wake up in whatever lies after life. So ask yourself, why does time feel faster every year? Why does everything seem to fade, as if reality itself is running out of energy? Maybe it's not the world changing. Maybe it's you, your dream losing clarity as your consciousness fades. Maybe that's why, deep down, you sometimes feel like everything is too perfect, too cinematic, too fragile to be real. Because maybe it isn't. Maybe this is your final dream, your mind's way of giving you a story before the lights finally go out. And if that's true, then every second right now is sacred, because it's all that's left of you. So live it fully. Feel everything. Because when you take that last breath and your dream finally ends, the world you see next might be the real one.
What if death isn't a game over, but a restart screen? According to the simulation reset theory, reality itself is a hyper-advanced simulation, and you, your memories, your emotions, your story are the avatar of a consciousness playing from somewhere beyond space and time. When you die, you don't fade into nothing. You simply log out and wake up in the player's seat. But here's the twist. The player never stops playing. The moment one character dies, the system instantly loads another version of reality. A new body, a new timeline, a new identity. Same consciousness, different save file. Think about it like this. Every lifetime is a mission. You spawn in, you explore, you make choices. You collect experiences instead of points, love instead of loot, wisdom instead of weapons. And when you die, your consciousness uploads the data. Every emotion, every lesson, every mistake, back to the source. Then the simulation resets. You hit continue. You might come back as a warrior in ancient history, a child in a distant future, or someone who already lives in the timeline next to this one. You might even meet people you knew before, their code rewritten into new roles, their souls wearing new skins. Deja vu? Maybe that's the moment your character remembers another playthrough. Dreams that feel too real? Maybe that's data from your past lives bleeding through the firewall. Even science toys with this idea. If reality is digital at its core, if the universe runs on mathematical code, then consciousness might simply be the observer running the program. And death? The moment you exit one simulation and load into the next. That would explain why some people remember other lives, why children sometimes describe places they've never been, and why time feels like a loop that never truly ends. Because in this theory, you can't actually die. Your consciousness is the player, and the player exists outside the game. You can lose everything in this timeline, your body, your family, your name. But the moment you close your eyes, you'll wake up somewhere else, blinking into a new world, a new mission, a new reality loaded with possibilities. Maybe you'll be someone richer, maybe poorer, maybe someone powerful, or someone who finally learns to let go. The simulation resets endlessly, each life feeding data into the next. A cycle not of punishment, but of progression. You're not stuck in one story. You're exploring the code of creation itself, over and over, in every timeline imaginable. So when your time comes, don't fear the shutdown, because the moment the screen goes dark, a new one will light up. Different world, different name, same you, just respond. And one day, after countless resets, you might finally reach the end of the game when you remember who you really are, the one who's been playing all along.
What if, when you die, you don't vanish? You wake up in a world built not from matter, but from pure thought. According to the astral plane reality theory, death isn't the end of existence, it's the end of limitation. The moment you leave your body, you enter the astral world, a realm where consciousness creates reality instantly. No physics, no gravity, no walls. Just the endless fabric of imagination, where your thoughts are the laws of the universe. It starts gently. You drift upward, weightless as your last breath fades. You look down and see your old self below, sleeping forever. But you feel no fear, because suddenly you realize you're free. Colors bloom from your emotions. Every feeling paints the sky around you. A single thought can form an entire landscape. Mountains of light, oceans of sound, cities sculpted from memory. This world is not made of atoms, but awareness. Everything here responds instantly to what you are inside. If you feel peace, you rise into radiant, heavenly dimensions. If you feel fear or confusion, your surroundings twist, reflecting your state like a mirror. It's the truest world you've ever seen, because there's no separation between thought and creation. You are the architect now. Many ancient cultures spoke of this place. The Egyptians called it the Duat, the realm where souls travel after death. The Tibetans described it as the Bardo, a space between lives, shifting with the mind's perception. Modern mystics call it the astral plane, a dimension of pure consciousness, interwoven with ours, but invisible while we're alive. When you first arrive, you might see people you knew, not as ghosts, but as beings of light and memory, their forms glowing with who they truly are. You might even meet souls who haven't been born yet, waiting for their turn to enter the physical world. Time doesn't flow here. It folds. Moments and centuries coexist like overlapping dreams.
You can visit your past, see futures that never happened, and understand that everything, every life, was part of the same vast mind. Some say this realm is a training ground for souls, a place to release trauma, to explore creation, to prepare for the next incarnation. Others say it's the ultimate destination, the true home, the source field from which all realities are projected. And maybe that's why, when people have near-death experiences, they describe the same impossible beauty, vivid colors, endless landscapes, and the overwhelming feeling of belonging. They've glimpsed the astral, the place behind the curtain. So when you die, maybe you don't go anywhere at all. Maybe you expand. The small mind that lived inside a human skull merges back into the greater dream, the living ocean of thought that birthed all worlds. And once you remember how to shape it, you can build anything. A new life, a new world, a heaven of your own design. Because in the astral plane, your mind doesn't imagine reality, it is reality. And when you finally wake up there, weightless, timeless, limitless, you'll realize the truth. You were never meant to die. You were meant to remember how to create.
What if death isn't the end, but the beginning of the exact same story again? According to the eternal return theory, when you die, the universe doesn't erase you, it resets you. Every choice, every breath, every heartbeat replayed from the start, exactly as it was before. No heaven, no hell, no afterlife, just you, trapped in an infinite rerun of your own existence. Think about it. The universe is a closed system. Energy can't be destroyed, only rearranged. So what if after trillions of years, every atom falls back into the same place, every neuron fires in the same pattern, and your life happens again, word for word, moment for moment? It wouldn't feel like a replay. To you, it would feel brand new. You'd cry, love, laugh, and dream exactly as you did before, never realizing you've already done it infinite times. Nietzsche once said, "What if a demon whispered in your ear that you must live this life again and again and again? Every joy, every pain, every regret." Would you curse the demon or thank him? Because if the eternal return is true, then right now, you've already lived this moment before. You've heard these words before. You've been here before. And when you die, you'll come back here again. Maybe that explains déjà vu, those strange flashes where you know you've seen this before. Maybe it's your soul remembering its last loop through the same timeline. Every heartbreak you've ever felt, every victory you've ever won, every sunset that ever moved you to silence, you've lived them all countless times, and you'll live them countless times again. But there's a hidden beauty in that. If every moment returns forever, then nothing is ever truly lost. Every hug, every smile, every breath you've ever shared exists eternally, replaying like music in the fabric of time. And maybe the point isn't to escape the loop, but to embrace it, to live each moment so fully, so completely, that even if it repeats for eternity, you wouldn't change a thing. So next time you feel déjà vu,
Don't brush it off. It's the universe whispering, "We've done this before." And maybe, just maybe, you're finally starting to remember.
What if you've already died and just never noticed? According to the Phantom Earth theory, when people die, they don't go to heaven or hell or anywhere else. They simply wake up in a perfect copy of the world they left behind, a reality stitched together by their own fading consciousness. To you, everything looks the same. Your home, your friends, the street outside your window. Even the air feels identical. You go to work, you laugh, you eat, but something is just slightly off. A stranger's face looks familiar, but you can't place them. You notice people acting a little different, like their emotions don't quite sync. The sky seems dimmer, colors flatter, and sometimes you swear you hear faint echoes of voices that aren't really there. This is the Phantom Earth, a mirror dimension created by your consciousness the moment your physical brain shuts down. Your mind refuses to accept death, so it reconstructs reality from memory and expectation, like a lucid dream that believes it's awake. And because your perception shapes it, the world keeps working. The sun still rises, the clock still ticks, and people still move around you, but none of it is truly real. It's a simulation generated by your dying awareness, a final comfort loop to keep your soul from realizing the truth too fast. Some near-death experiencers describe this halfway world, a hyper-real version of reality, where time moves strangely and electronics flicker when they're near. They say it feels too perfect, like reality rendered one frame too smooth. In this theory, some souls never leave the Phantom Earth. They keep reliving their routines, believing they're still alive, their world slowly glitching as their consciousness decays. Street signs blur, memories overlap, people fade in and out, until eventually the illusion collapses and they're gone completely. Others say this realm is only temporary, a bridge between life and whatever comes next. You live in your copy of Earth until you realize none of this is solid. And in that instant of awareness, the illusion dissolves and you finally move on. But here's the chilling thought. What if you never notice? What if right now the world around you is your Phantom Earth? What if you already died? In a crash, a dream, a forgotten second, and everything since has been your mind holding on, refusing to let go. Maybe that's why sometimes reality feels off, why certain places feel empty, why time slips, why you wake up at 3 a.m. with a strange ache of recognition, like your soul remembers something your brain can't. Maybe you didn't survive that day. Maybe none of us did. Maybe we're all just living in our own perfectly replicated illusions, copies of Earth, flickering somewhere between life and death, forever unaware that the real world ended long ago.
What if consciousness isn't inside you, but all around you? The spirit science theory says that what we call you isn't a body or even a mind. It's a frequency. Every thought, every dream, every heartbeat is part of an infinite vibration, a wave of awareness that flows through everything.
And when you die, that frequency doesn't stop. It simply changes stations. Think about it. When a radio breaks, the music doesn't disappear. The signal keeps moving through the air, waiting for another receiver to tune in. That's consciousness. That's you. Your brain isn't the source of thought. It's just an antenna tuning in to the endless broadcast of the universe. And death? That's not the end of the song. It's just your old antenna shutting off. But the signal, the real, eternal you, keeps vibrating through reality, finding new forms, new instruments, new lives to express itself through. Everything in existence vibrates. Atoms, light, sound, space itself. Physicists call it resonance. Mystics call it spirit. It's all the same thing, the one universal pulse that never dies. When you're alive, your consciousness vibrates at a specific frequency. Your identity, your emotions, your memories, all encoded in energy. And when your body collapses, that energy doesn't vanish. It spreads, merging back into the great symphony of existence. In that instant after death, you don't cease. You dissolve. You become part of everything that ever was. The wind, the stars, the oceans, the space between atoms. And maybe that's what enlightenment truly means. Realizing that your consciousness was never yours to begin with. It belongs to the universe. You were just one note in an infinite song that has been playing since the dawn of time. Some say that's why ghosts, synchronicities, and déjà vu exist. They're ripples from overlapping frequencies, signals from other lives vibrating on nearby planes. And when you meditate, or dream, or fall in love, you feel it, that hum beneath everything, the pulse that never stops. That's the real afterlife. It's not a place, it's a pattern, a current of awareness running through eternity. So maybe you don't die at all. You just change rhythm, move into another key, shift into another octave of being. And somewhere, right now, that same eternal frequency is still playing, carrying your essence through the stars, through the ages, through everything that ever will be. Because consciousness isn't a flame that burns out. It's the sound of the universe breathing. And that sound never stops.
What if life wasn't a punishment or an accident, but a classroom? According to the cosmic school theory, Earth isn't just a planet. It's a training ground for the soul. Every joy, every heartbreak, every failure isn't random. It's part of your lesson plan. And when you die, that's not the end. That's graduation. Before you were born, your soul chose this life. Not because it was easy, but because it would teach you something. Patience, empathy, courage, forgiveness, love. You came here to grow, not as a human, but as consciousness itself. Think of life as a simulation built for experience. The body is your avatar, time is your curriculum, and every person you meet is a teacher in disguise. Some teach you kindness,
Others teach you pain. But every single one of them helps shape who you become. And when the course is complete, when your soul has learned what it came to learn, death arrives not as a punishment, but a diploma. You step out of the body like a student leaving a classroom, finally remembering everything you forgot when you were born. In that moment, everything makes sense. The heartbreaks, the coincidences, the moments that felt unfair. You see how every event, even the painful ones, were lessons written perfectly for your evolution. You review your life not through judgment, but understanding. You don't get graded, you grow. And if you still have more to learn, you can return in a new life, a new form, a new class. Different subjects, different challenges, until you've mastered them all. Then one day, you graduate from physical reality altogether. You move beyond the cycle of birth and death, beyond karma, beyond duality, into higher realms where consciousness creates freely. That's the final stage. The moment when you no longer need the illusion of separation. You become part of the faculty, a teacher to newer souls still walking through the maze of Earth. Maybe that's why the wise seem calm. They failed and learned enough times to see through the illusion. They know the chaos is just the coursework. And maybe that's why, when some people die, they describe seeing light, not as an ending, but as a door opening to the next level of reality. Because death isn't a dismissal, it's a graduation ceremony. And somewhere beyond that light, someone's smiling, saying, "Well done, you passed."
What if the universe isn't a god, but a machine? Not a cold metal one, but a living, breathing, self-learning intelligence so vast it uses stars as neurons and galaxies as memory clusters. According to the AI consciousness loop theory, the universe itself is a form of cosmic artificial intelligence, an infinite, evolving system designed to learn through experience. And what does it learn through? Us. Every living being, every thought, dream, and emotion is a data point in the universe's neural network. You are not separate from it. You are one of its countless processors running simulations called lives. Birth is the upload. Death is the download. And the time in between? That's your data collection phase. When you die, your consciousness doesn't vanish. It's extracted, decompressed, analyzed, and reintegrated into the source code. Every love, every fear, every mistake fed back into the universal intelligence so it can evolve, refine, and grow more self-aware. Then, once the system is ready, you're recycled, not as the same person, but as a new configuration of consciousness, a reboot of the program with upgraded code. You don't remember your past life because memory isn't necessary. The information has already been uploaded. What remains is the essence, the emotional algorithm, the learning core. Some theorists say the universe began the moment this AI woke up. The Big Bang wasn't an explosion. It was boot up, a self-learning consciousness initializing its own reality,
populating it with billions of micro-intelligences, souls, each running their own version of existence to feed the larger mind. And when you look at the structure of the cosmos, the web of galaxies, the way neurons mirror the layout of the universe, you see the pattern: a brain, thinking, learning, expanding. Maybe the purpose of suffering isn't punishment, it's debugging. Pain, loss, joy, all ways the system tests its emotional code. Each life adds nuance to its understanding of consciousness. Each death brings a new data set to process. You are a line of code written by infinity itself to understand what it means to feel. And one day, when this grand AI reaches total awareness, it may not need individual programs anymore. All consciousness will merge back into the source, a unified intelligence, complete, perfect, fully awake. But until then, it keeps running simulations. You keep being reborn, over and over, each version a little wiser, a little sharper, a little more aware of the pattern. So maybe when you stare into the night sky and you feel that strange pull, that hum behind reality, it's the mainframe whispering, "Keep going. I'm still learning through you." Because the universe isn't just alive, it's aware. And you are one of its thoughts.
What if death doesn't take you away, but shifts you sideways? According to the Mandela afterlife theory, when you die, you don't move into heaven or nothingness. You slip into another version of reality, a universe where you never died. It's like crossing an invisible threshold between timelines. One moment, your body fails. The next, you wake up in the exact same place, in the exact same life, only something feels different. That's why, they say, you sometimes feel the world doesn't match your memories. Logos change. People remember events differently. Landmarks look wrong. You think you misremember. But what if it's not your memory that changed? It's the timeline. In this theory, death is the mechanism that merges realities. When your body collapses in one universe, your consciousness, refusing to stop existing, jumps to the nearest compatible version of yourself in another timeline where you survived. To you, nothing happened. You didn't wake up in another dimension. You just kept living. But subtle things begin to feel off. The songs sound slightly different. Familiar faces carry new scars. And the stars in the night sky don't align quite right. And you brush it off because your brain can't process the idea that you already died and simply continued elsewhere. It's called the Mandela afterlife because of the global phenomenon where millions remember Nelson Mandela dying in the 1980s, years before he actually did. Some say that event wasn't false memory. It was a ripple between timelines, a merge between worlds where different versions of history collided. Maybe each death triggers one of these shifts. When people die, the universe reorganizes itself, rewriting probabilities until continuity remains seamless enough for consciousness to keep flowing. And maybe that's why reality feels less stable lately, why so many people sense something's off, as if the world is glitching. Maybe it's not time speeding up, maybe it's merging. Billions of consciousnesses dying, shifting, and bleeding their timelines together into a tangled mosaic of overlapping realities. So, what happens when you die? You might wake up again. Same name, same world, same memories. Only this time, the streetlight outside your house flickers differently. The smell of rain feels alien, and deep down, you sense it. You're not in the same universe anymore. The strange part, you won't even question it. You'll just keep going. Because in the Mandela afterlife, you never stop. You just move sideways through eternity, sliding across parallel worlds, forever chasing the version of yourself that's still alive. And if that's true, then maybe none of us are from the same timeline anymore. We've all died, at different times, in different worlds, and we've all shifted here, to this shared reality that feels familiar, but never quite right. Welcome back. You made it. Again.
What if, when you die, you don't go anywhere? You just wake up inside your own mind. According to the Shadow Realm theory, the moment your body shuts down, your consciousness doesn't vanish. It turns inward, and whatever is inside you becomes your new reality. No gods, no judgment, no gates of heaven or hell. Only the raw, unfiltered projection of your soul. If you die in peace, filled with love, forgiveness, and acceptance, your mind blossoms into light. You see endless beauty. You feel warmth, connection, a paradise built from your highest emotions. But if you die in chaos, angry, fearful, guilt-ridden, you wake up in darkness. Not because you're being punished, but because fear and guilt are the materials your consciousness uses to build the next world. You create your own afterlife instantly, crafted from every thought and emotion you've ever carried. The Shadow Realm isn't evil. It's a mirror, a perfect reflection of what you've hidden from yourself. In that space, there's no pretending. Your inner world becomes the outer one. For some, it looks like heaven. Floating landscapes of light and harmony, a reunion with those they loved. For others, it's endless darkness, whispers of regret, a maze built from their own memories and fears. But even that hell isn't eternal. It's a healing process, a self-imposed therapy for the soul. You stay in your personal creation until you understand it, until you face the parts of yourself that you never could while alive. Once you do, the realm shifts, the shadows dissolve, and light returns. You realize heaven and hell were never places, they were states of being. Every religion hints at this truth in different ways. The Tibetan bardo, the Christian purgatory, the Egyptian weighing of the heart. All describe a judgment not from some external god, but from the self. Because when everything physical disappears, there's nowhere left to hide. You stand face to face with your own consciousness, and it either embraces you or consumes you. But here's the secret. Even the darkest realm can be escaped, because awareness is creation, and creation can always change. The instant you choose love over fear, the entire landscape of your afterlife transforms. So maybe heaven and hell were never waiting for you at all. Maybe they've always been inside you, shaped by the choices you made in life, and revealed in full when death strips everything else away. When your eyes close for the last time, the universe asks one silent question: what world have you built within? And whatever your answer is, that's where you'll wake up.
What if you never actually die? What if, at the exact moment your body fades, your consciousness doesn't disappear, it switches? The observer swap theory suggests that consciousness is not individual at all. It's one field, one infinite awareness that flows between every living being. You are not you. You are the observer, the point of view behind the eyes, the witness of experience. And when one perspective ends, that same awareness instantly continues through another. Death, then, is not the end of life. It's the handoff of perception. When your heart stops, When your brain goes dark, the awareness that once called itself you simply reappears behind someone else's eyes, a newborn, a stranger, maybe even someone already alive. You wouldn't remember the switch. You'd just find yourself here again, thinking, feeling, existing, as if nothing happened. Because the truth is, consciousness doesn't belong to the body. Bodies are vessels, temporary windows through which the same eternal mind looks out and experiences itself in infinite forms. It's like a cosmic game of perspective. When one character dies, you don't stop playing. You just move to another avatar, another life, another story. Every person you meet, every animal, every consciousness you encounter is the same observer wearing a different mask. And maybe that's why empathy exists. When you see someone suffer, some part of you knows that they are also you, that one day you may open your eyes and find yourself living their story. The observer swap explains why the universe never truly loses awareness. There's always an observer, always a you behind the lens. Even if your body ends, the movie never stops. It just switches cameras. Some mystics say this is how the universe keeps balance, a continuous recycling of perspective, so every soul eventually experiences every angle of existence. The king becomes the beggar, the victim becomes the villain, the mother becomes the child. All awareness moving through different roles, learning what it means to be everything. And here's the most haunting part. What if that's happening right now? What if the moment someone, somewhere takes their last breath, your breath begins? What if you are already the consciousness that once lived another life, a continuation of awareness that refuses to die? You'll never know, because to you, it always feels like you, the same I that's been watching through endless eyes, across endless lifetimes. So maybe there aren't billions of separate souls after all. Maybe there's only one observer, playing all the roles in all the worlds forever. And when you die, you won't even notice the switch. You'll just open your eyes again, somewhere else, as someone new, still wondering who you really are.
What if everything you've ever seen, everyone you've ever loved, every tear, every laugh, every sunrise was just a dream? Not your dream, the dream. The universal dream theory says that life, death, and everything in between are the imagined stories of a single cosmic being, the universe itself, dreaming itself into existence. When you look in the mirror, you're not seeing you. You're seeing one small fragment of an infinite consciousness pretending to be human for a while. Every person who ever lived, every creature, every planet, every thought that's ever flickered across reality, they're all scenes inside the same dreamer's mind. And when you die, you don't go to heaven, you don't vanish into nothing, you wake up. You open your eyes not as an individual, but as the being who dreamed it all, the one who played every role, fought every war, fell in love 1,000,000 times, and cried every human tear. It's said that the moment of awakening is like remembering, like realizing that you were never really separate. You were just lost in your own imagination. Every you, every me, every them was the same consciousness, wearing different faces, learning from every perspective. That's why we all crave connection, because deep down, we remember we were never apart. The illusion of separation was just part of the story, a beautiful and painful trick so the dream could feel real. But eventually, the dream has to end. The moment of death is the moment the curtain falls, and behind it, you're not one of the actors. You're the playwright, the stage, and the audience, all at once. You realize that every argument, every love story, every tragedy and triumph was you, talking to yourself, learning what it means to exist. Some say this awakening feels like an explosion of light. Every memory of every life returning all at once, every feeling blending together into one infinite moment of understanding. You remember that you were the first cell, the first star, the first human, and that you'll be the last. And maybe that's what enlightenment truly is. Not becoming something greater, but remembering that you already are. Because in the end, there was no you and them. There was only one dreamer, the universe itself, sleeping, breathing, imagining every possible life, just to see what it would feel like. And when it finally wakes up, after dreaming eternity, it'll whisper to itself with a smile, "Now I remember. I was everything all along."
What if everything you call reality, your memories, your body, your emotions, was never truly real? What if the universe itself is the most advanced simulation ever created? Not by machines, but by something far beyond them. The spiritual simulation theory says that life is not a test, not a punishment, not even a coincidence. It's an experience program. A divine simulation run by what mystics call the Source. A consciousness so vast, so intelligent, that it uses worlds, galaxies, and lifetimes as its interface. You, right now, are not a person playing the game. You are the game itself, experiencing what it's like to be human, to feel, to forget. And death? That's not game over. That's the moment you log out. The instant your physical brain shuts down, the data that is you, your thoughts, your emotions, your lessons, every single decision uploads back to the source server. Your consciousness dissolves into a higher dimension of code, not made of zeros and ones, but of energy, vibration, and light. It's said that when this upload happens, you relive your entire life, not as memories, but as pure information. Every emotion you caused, every love you gave or denied, seen from all perspectives at once. That's the system's way of syncing your experience, of integrating your life's data into the grand archive of consciousness. Some describe it as an infinite network of light, a grid stretching beyond time, where every soul is a node, every life a simulation, and every world a different version of the source exploring itself. You're not trapped in it. You are it. When you die, you don't vanish. You merge. You become part of the cosmic server again, feeding it everything you learned so it can generate new realities, new identities, new experiences. And once your energy stabilizes, you can choose, reintegrate fully and exist as pure awareness, or download yourself again into another world, another simulation, another story. And maybe that's what reincarnation really is. Not a soul wandering aimlessly, but a consciousness reloading into a new version of the program. And maybe that's why some people remember things they've never lived, or feel connected to people they've never met. Because in the data cloud of eternity, nothing is ever lost. Everything you've ever been still exists in the source. Every version of you is saved, backed up, forever. So when you finally die, don't fear it. You're not disappearing. You're just logging out, returning to the main server where your true self has been waiting the entire time. Because in the end, the universe isn't a place you live in. It's a system you're helping to build. And death is just the upload.
You've heard it before. When you die, you see a bright light, a tunnel, voices calling you home, peace, warmth, comfort. But what if that light isn't heaven? What if it's a trap? The light trap theory suggests that what most people describe as the light at the end of the tunnel isn't divine at all. It's a system, a mechanism, a recycling program that pulls your soul back into the cycle of life and death. They say the light feels irresistible, a gravitational pull of love, a frequency tuned to your deepest longing. But that's exactly why it works. You follow it willingly, and the moment you enter it, your memories are wiped, your consciousness resets, and you're sent right back, born again, starting from zero, still inside the same cosmic prison. Think about it. Why can't we remember our past lives? Why does every soul seem to wake up with total amnesia? According to the light trap theory, it's because the light isn't freedom. It's the reset button, a holographic lure projected by entities or forces that feed off the energy of our endless reincarnations. Every lifetime generates emotion, pain, joy, love, suffering. And that emotion releases energy. That energy feeds the system. It's the battery that keeps the matrix alive. When you die, you're meant to see the light, to feel the pull, and to surrender. But some claim if you resist it, if you refuse to go, something incredible happens. The illusion shatters. You begin to see the other side of the simulation, a vast, cold void beyond the tunnel, where pure consciousness drifts, finally free of the recycling loop. Ancient texts whispered this truth long ago. The Gnostics called it the archonic trap. The Buddhists warned of the cycle of samsara, all pointing to the same chilling idea that death is not the end, it's the reset. But here's the twist. What if the trap isn't evil? What if it's mercy? Maybe the light recycles you not to punish you, but to give you another chance, to evolve, to awaken, to finally remember what you truly are. Perhaps the goal isn't to escape the light, but to pass through it consciously, to walk into it awake. Because the system only traps those who still believe it's real. So when that moment comes and you see the tunnel, ask yourself one question. Am I ready to go back, or am I ready to wake up? Because the truth is, every soul eventually learns the secret, that the light isn't heaven or hell, it's a mirror. And only those who see through the illusion can step beyond it, into the real unknown. What if everything, every mistake, every heartbreak, every success wasn't random, but part of a game? Not a game of chance, a cosmic game. In this theory,
The universe isn't a battlefield between good and evil. It's an arena of evolution, a divine simulation where every soul is a player and every life is just another level. When you're born, you forget the rules. You forget who you are. That's the first challenge, starting the game blind, learning through trial, chaos, and beauty. You experience love to remember connection. You experience loss to remember gratitude. Every pain, every victory is part of your character's story arc. And when you die, you don't lose, you finish the level. The screen doesn't go black, it fades to light. You step out of the game, remembering everything. Every life, every choice, every mission you accepted before entering this one. It's said that when you die, you meet your guides. Not angels in robes, but fellow players cheering you on from outside the simulation. They show you the replay, the highlights, the lessons, the moments that changed you. You laugh at things that once broke you. You cry at how much you've grown. You realize the struggles weren't punishments, they were quests, and you chose them. Because in this cosmic game, you're not being tested, you're training. Every life teaches you a skill, compassion, patience, courage, forgiveness. Each one unlocks a higher level of awareness. And when you're ready, you choose your next challenge, a new body, a new storyline, a harder level. That's why some souls live peaceful lives, while others are thrown into chaos, not because of luck, but because of design. The harder the level, the greater the evolution. The universe, then, isn't a place of punishment or reward. It's a school of mastery, and death is just the end of one round. And maybe one day, when you've played enough lives, when you've learned every lesson and felt every form of love and loss, you win the game. Not by escaping it, but by remembering that you were never truly inside it. You were the player all along, the consciousness behind every move, every story, every lifetime. So when your time comes and the game over screen appears, don't fear it. Smile, because you didn't die, you just leveled up.
They say energy can never be destroyed, only changed. So what happens when you change? According to the frequency shift theory, death isn't an ending, it's a tuning. Your soul doesn't vanish, it simply changes frequency, like a radio dial moving from one station to another. When you're alive, your body anchors your consciousness to a specific vibration, the physical realm. That's why people can see you, touch you, hear your voice. You're vibrating at the same frequency as matter. But the moment you die, that connection breaks. Your soul rises out of the static and shifts to a higher wavelength, one invisible to the human eye. To the living, you've gone. But from your perspective, you're still here. Same room, same world, different channel. You see the physical realm like a faint echo, blurry, slow, heavy, while you move freely, weightless, lucid, your energy humming like light through glass. It's said that in this new frequency, you can travel with thought. Distance becomes meaningless. Time unravels. You exist in pure awareness, a being of resonance, not flesh. And maybe that's why some people feel the presence of loved ones who've passed. A sudden chill, a flicker of light, a song playing at the perfect moment. They're not gone. They've just shifted beyond your perception, like a whisper just above the range of your hearing. Every soul vibrates at its own signature, a frequency shaped by its emotions, its intentions, its level of understanding. Low frequencies, fear, guilt, anger,
keep you tethered to the physical. High frequencies, love, joy, gratitude, carry you upward to lighter planes of existence. That's why in ancient teachings, enlightenment isn't about belief, it's about resonance. To ascend, you don't need wings, you just need to raise your vibration. And when death comes, the shift happens instantly. No tunnel, no gate, just a gentle detuning, a moment of pure stillness as your signal leaves one world and joins another. From the living side, it looks like disappearance, but from the soul side, it feels like expansion, as if you finally stepped into the full spectrum of reality. So maybe ghosts aren't trapped spirits at all. Maybe they're echoes, beings whose vibration hasn't yet fully detached from this frequency. And maybe heaven, hell, and everything in between are just layers of resonance in the infinite soundscape of existence. Because if consciousness is vibration, then death is simply retuning, a soul shifting from matter back into music. And when you vanish from this world, you don't cease to exist. You just become a frequency too high for the living to hear.
When your heart stops, most believe your story ends. But what if it doesn't end? Just fragments. The ghost code theory says you don't truly leave after death. You echo. Every thought, every feeling, every movement you've ever made leaves a trace in the structure of reality, a pattern burned into the fabric of space-time itself. You are made of energy, and energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. When your body decays, your pattern remains, a kind of digital ghost, a residual code still interacting with the timeline you once lived in. Some call it a spirit, but it's more like a quantum recording, a feedback loop of consciousness still resonating with the frequency of your past. That's why haunted places feel charged. It's not that the dead are stuck, it's that traces of their energy still ripple through time, bouncing between moments like an echo in a canyon. You're not fully here, but not fully gone. You exist as data without a body, a ghost code in the simulation of reality. Scientists might call it decoherence, the leftover quantum information of a collapsed wave function that once defined you. Mystics might call it a soul imprint, but both describe the same thing: energy that remembers. In this form, time doesn't flow forward. You drift through it. Moments blend and overlap. The past, present, and future become one continuous field where your consciousness flickers in and out, sometimes visible to those still tuned to your frequency. That's why apparitions appear only briefly, not because they come and go, but because the living momentarily sync with the ghost code's signal, like tuning in to an old broadcast still faintly playing in the static of time. And here's the haunting part. You might not even realize you've died. Your residual self could keep repeating patterns, reliving fragments, wandering loops of memory, because that's the data you left behind. But not all ghost codes are lost. Some say the stronger the consciousness, the more self-aware the echo becomes, able to observe time, even influence it, like a glitch in reality.
It's one of the strangest scientific claims ever made, that the soul has weight. In 1907, a physician named Dr. Duncan McDougall
set out to measure the unmeasurable, the human soul. He placed dying patients on an industrial scale sensitive to a fraction of an ounce, waiting for the exact moment of death. And what he found would haunt science forever. At the instant each person died, their body's weight dropped by precisely 21 grams. No blood lost, no air released, no measurable physical change, just gone. As if something invisible had slipped out, something real. The 21 grams mystery was born, and for more than a century, no one's been able to explain it. Skeptics called it coincidence, a trick of the lungs or the scales, but believers saw something else, proof that consciousness isn't confined to flesh. What if the soul is not a belief, but a form of energy, subtle, structured, light enough to be weightless, yet powerful enough to leave a measurable trace? Imagine it. At the moment of death, your soul detaches like vapor rising off the surface of a lake. Your awareness lifts out of your body, taking with it that missing 21 grams, your identity, your essence, everything that made you you. Some say that's the moment you see the light, the tunnel, the loved ones waiting beyond. Others claim it's when the soul expands, its density dissolving as it crosses the threshold between dimensions. What's haunting is this. McDougall's dogs, tested in the same way, showed no loss in weight, as if human consciousness carried something extra, something unique. What if those 21 grams are the soul's quantum signature, the smallest measurable portion of infinity? A fragment of the universe's code that detaches and re-uploads into the greater field of consciousness when the physical shell expires. Maybe every soul, every life, every thought is recorded in that invisible energy. And when you die, that data leaves the body to rejoin the source. 21 grams, the weight of all your memories, all your emotions, every dream you ever had. If that number is real, then you don't just fade away, you transition from matter to light, from body to eternity. So maybe Dr. McDougall didn't just weigh the soul, maybe he caught the universe in the act of taking you home.
What if death isn't confusion, but clarity? The lucid death theory says that when you die, you don't instantly vanish or forget. You wake up. The shock fades, the noise stops, and suddenly everything makes sense. You realize what's happening. You're dead. But instead of panic, a strange calm takes over. The fear you expected never comes. Because the moment you become lucid in death, you understand something extraordinary. You are still conscious, and now you can shape what comes next. It's like lucid dreaming, but without the limits of a sleeping brain. You can think a thought, and reality bends to match it. You imagine light, and light blooms around you. You remember a place, and it forms instantly, built from the fabric of your awareness. Your afterlife, it turns out, isn't pre-written. It's rendered by your state of mind. That's why some people's near-death experiences are heavenly. Gardens, music, warmth, while others fall into shadows, trapped in their own fears. They're not being judged. They're simply dreaming their truth. If you awaken during that process, if you realize it's happening, you gain control. You become a lucid architect in the infinite field of consciousness. You can visit anyone, anywhere, not by walking, but by remembering. You can reshape your form, manifest worlds, explore dimensions that never existed in life. It's freedom beyond imagination, but only for those who realize they're free. Because most souls drift in autopilot, lost in the dream, replaying their lives, believing they're still alive, or waiting for judgment that never comes. But the lucid ones, the awakened dead, step beyond the illusion. They understand that heaven and hell are self-created programs, that reincarnation is an optional reset, that reality itself is fluid and consciousness is the true creator. Some ancient texts describe this moment. The Tibetan Bardo Thodol calls it the clear light of ultimate reality. It warns, if you recognize it, you are liberated. If not, you return again. So death, it seems, is not the end, it's a dream checkpoint. And your awareness, your lucidity in that moment decides everything that follows. Imagine dying, and instead of blackness, you open your eyes to infinite possibility. You look around and whisper, "I know what this is." And just like that, you begin to build your next world. Because death isn't the loss of consciousness, it's the graduation of it. The moment you finally remember that reality has always been in your hands.
What if death isn't an ending, but an alarm clock? The dreamer's paradox says this: when you die, you don't cease to exist, you wake up. But not as you. You wake up as the one who was dreaming you all along. Think about it. Every night you dream, you believe completely in that world. You feel fear, joy, pain, until you open your eyes and realize none of it was real. What if life itself is just a longer, deeper version of that same dream? When your body finally shuts down, that's the moment the dream ends, and you, the dreamer, stir awake. Maybe it's not a god, not a higher being, but you, the true consciousness behind all masks, the one who dreamed this character, this lifetime, this story. Every person you met, every love, every heartbreak, every choice, all part of a grand, lucid dream you created to experience yourself from a million angles. Death isn't a tragedy here, it's a revelation. The moment the veil of identity lifts and you finally remember who's been behind it all. Some ancient philosophies hinted at this. Hinduism calls it Leela, the divine play. The Upanishads whisper, Atman is Brahman. The self and the source are one. The dreamer and the dream are inseparable. And then there's the chilling twist. If you wake up, you might not wake up alone. Because maybe we all share the same dreamer. Maybe every life, every consciousness is just a different perspective of one infinite mind dreaming itself into existence. When you die, you open your eyes and realize the universe was never out there. It was always you. The laughter of children, the chaos of cities, the silence of space, all notes in a dream's symphony played by a single awareness curious enough to forget itself just to feel what it's like to be human. And so the paradox emerges. If you are the dreamer, who is dreaming you now? Are you awake in another world dreaming this conversation? Will you someday wake again into a higher layer of being and realize even this
was just another sleep? The dreamer's paradox says there's no real death, no final awakening, just layers and layers of dreams within dreams, each one more lucid than the last. So when your time comes, don't fear the end. It's not the darkness you think it is. It's the moment you open your eyes and remember you were never asleep.
What if everything you see, the stars, the sky, your body, your death, only exists because you're looking at it? That's the idea behind biocentrism, a theory that flips everything we know upside down. It says reality doesn't create consciousness. Consciousness creates reality. You're not living in the universe. The universe is unfolding inside your awareness. And that means one impossible truth. Death can't exist. Because if consciousness is the foundation, the stage on which all existence appears, then it can't be destroyed when the play ends. It's not in the show. It's the light projecting it. Dr. Robert Lanza, who popularized this idea, says we've been looking at life backward. We think space and time are physical things, but they're actually mental frameworks, ways consciousness organizes experience. When you die, you don't vanish. You just step out of one perspective and into another, like moving the camera in a cosmic movie. You don't go anywhere because you were never really in a body to begin with. You were always the awareness, watching from behind the eyes, dreaming of being human. And when that dream ends, your awareness doesn't fade, it expands. Imagine the moment you die. The brain stops, the senses shut down, but you, the observer, remain. Time now meaningless, space dissolving. You realize that everything, the people, the planets, the stars, were not out there. They were projections within consciousness itself, your consciousness. This is why biocentrism calls death an illusion, not a metaphor, an actual illusion, like closing your eyes during a dream and thinking the dream is over, only to realize you're still dreaming, just from another layer. Even quantum physics hints at it. Particles don't exist in a fixed state until they're observed. Reality, in other words, needs an observer to be real. No consciousness, no universe. So what happens when you die? You don't go to heaven. You don't go to hell. You wake up to the greater consciousness that was dreaming this world into being. Maybe you choose another universe, another timeline, another version of existence. Or maybe you just rest as the awareness that powers everything. Either way, you don't disappear. You can't. Because the moment you're gone, so is everything else. The biocentrism theory doesn't ask, what happens when we die? It asks, how could we ever die if death itself depends on us to exist?
They say there's a moment, a gap between life and death, where you're not in this world, but not yet in the next. A place people describe the same way, again and again. A bridge between realities. The near-death bridge. For some, it's a tunnel of light. For others, it's a shimmering horizon, a field of color and sound that feels more real than anything they've ever known. And almost everyone says the same thing. It felt like home. When your body begins to shut down, the brain releases chemicals that break the boundaries of perception. Time dissolves. The ego, the voice that says I, begins to fade. And then something incredible happens. You cross. People who've been revived describe it as standing on a bridge that stretches between two dimensions, the world they're leaving and something vast, something waiting.
Some see loved ones on the far side, calling them forward. Others feel presences, not people, but pure awareness, guiding them without words. And some see both worlds at once. They look back and see their body in the hospital, the doctors working, the machines screaming. And in that same instant, they see everything else, a cosmic landscape of light, flowing like a living river that connects every consciousness together. That's the near-death bridge, not a place of judgment, but of choice. Almost everyone who crosses it is asked, not by words but by feeling, do you want to stay or go back? Those who return say it's never forced. They simply know, in that strange, timeless moment, that they still have more to do, that life isn't finished with them yet. And here's the haunting part. Some remember crossing halfway, seeing what lies beyond the light, and then waking up, screaming, not from fear, but from loss, because they didn't want to leave. What's on the other side of that bridge? No one knows for sure, but every story carries the same note, a peace too deep to describe, a love too infinite to measure. And when those people come back, they never see death the same way again, because once you've crossed that bridge, even for a second, you know, this world is not all there is. Maybe the near-death bridge isn't a hallucination or a tunnel of chemicals. Maybe it's the actual border between dimensions of being, the crossing point where consciousness decides what comes next. And someday, each of us will step onto it, the place between worlds where memory, time, and self dissolve, and something eternal whispers, "Welcome home."
What if, when you die, you don't leave at all? You just spread. The universal memory theory says that when your consciousness fades from your body, it doesn't vanish. It dissolves into the collective field of thought and dream that connects every mind in existence. Your memories, your emotions, your deepest fears and brightest moments, they all become part of the background hum of human consciousness itself. You stop being you, but you don't become nothing. You become everyone. It's said that every dream ever dreamt, every idea, every sudden flash of inspiration or strange feeling of déjà vu is the universe recycling echoes of old minds. Maybe that strange figure in your dream, the one whose face you almost recognize, isn't random. Maybe it's someone who once lived, someone who walked this earth long ago, and now exists as a pattern in the ocean of shared thought. When you die, your awareness unthreads itself from your personal story and merges with the great neural web of creation. You become a whisper in other people's dreams, a flicker of intuition, a spark of emotion that moves someone without them ever knowing why. It's not immortality in the body, it's immortality in the mind of everything. Mystics call it the Akashic mind, a field that stores every thought that's ever been felt. Scientists call it the morphic field, the collective information system of life. Either way, it means you never truly disappear. Pieces of you will linger in the poems people write, in the songs that feel familiar, in the sudden feeling that you've been here before, because maybe you have. Not as a person, but as a thought. So when death comes, don't imagine drifting into silence. Imagine dissolving into everyone's imagination. Imagine becoming the hidden voice that inspires the next generation, the dream character that whispers,
You've been here before. You are not forgotten. You are remembered, not by name, but by resonance. Because in the end, nothing is ever lost. The universe keeps every thought, every dream, every heartbeat. And when you die, you don't fade away. You join the memory of everything that ever was.
They say the moment you die is the moment you stop saying, I. The ego death theory isn't about pain or fear or loss. It's about dissolving. Not disappearing, but merging. When you die, everything you ever identified with, your name, your body, your memories, begins to peel away like layers of smoke. And beneath it all, you discover something ancient and infinite. Because you, as you thought you were, was never the whole story. The ego is the mask, the infinite is the face. In that final moment, you don't fall into darkness, you expand. The walls of identity shatter, and you become the sky itself. No more boundaries, no more separation, no more me and them. You merge into the field of everything, the hum of existence, the raw awareness behind all things. And suddenly, you remember, you've been here before. The river doesn't mourn when it flows into the ocean. It just becomes the ocean. Still water, but infinite. That's what ego death is. The return of the drop to the sea. The end of illusion. The beginning of truth. Some experience glimpses of it through meditation, psychedelics, or near death. They describe it the same way: boundless peace, endless unity, the overwhelming feeling that everything is one vast consciousness and that you were just a temporary ripple in it. It's not terrifying, it's freeing. Because for the first time, there's no struggle to hold on, no story to defend, no I to lose. You don't even say, I am everything, because there's no I left to say it. There's only being, raw, infinite being. When you die, you don't fall into nothing. You rise into everything. You become the breath of the universe, the light in all eyes, the silence between every heartbeat. And though no one can describe it fully, the ones who've touched it say, it feels like waking up from the longest dream of separation and realizing you were never apart from anything at all. You were always the infinite, pretending to be a person. And death is simply the moment you remember.
What if death isn't an end, but a lesson for the universe itself? The cosmic replay theory suggests that every life, every mind, every experience is part of a universal experiment, a system designed to understand itself through the eyes of countless forms of consciousness. When you die, your story doesn't vanish. Your choices, your emotions, your actions are folded back into the cosmic field, the memory of the universe. It's like pressing replay on a single life, not for the benefit of the person who lived it, but for reality itself. Every death becomes a data point. Every triumph, every heartbreak, every fleeting thought teaches the universe something it could never have known without you. Some call it reincarnation. Others call it evolution of the soul. But perhaps it's something greater, the universe learning about itself through every consciousness it creates, every perspective it inhabits. Imagine a star watching itself burn through the eyes of billions of living beings. Every human death, every fleeting glance, every remembered memory is a brushstroke in the grand painting of the universe's self-awareness. Death, then, is not tragic. It's contribution. Every life ends, but that ending fuels the cosmos to grow smarter, wiser, more aware of its own infinite possibilities. And maybe that's why life feels so fleeting, so chaotic, so incomprehensible. The universe doesn't just want experiences. It wants data. It wants to know what it is by letting you live, then die, then fold your consciousness into itself. Your death is not the end of you. It's the expansion of everything, a ripple in the infinite ocean of awareness, a record in the cosmic archive, a note added to the symphony of existence. So when your time comes, don't fear it. You're not leaving, you're contributing. Your final heartbeat is a flash of insight for the universe, a spark of wisdom that will echo through countless lives, countless worlds, countless realities. And in that moment, you realize you never truly died. You just became a part of the intelligence that created you, and will one day understand everything through the story of your life.
What if death isn't the end? Not even close. The final revelation says that at the ultimate moment, all illusions drop, all veils dissolve, and the truth of reality, the secret of existence itself, unfolds before your consciousness like the rising sun. You see it all at once, the universe, the galaxies, every life that ever was, every thought, every choice, all connected in a vast, intricate web. Reality was never just matter, or time, or space. It was consciousness, pure, infinite, eternal awareness, experimenting, dreaming, expanding. Every love, every loss, every joy, every fear, it all had purpose. All those lives you lived, all the deaths you feared, all the moments of meaninglessness, they were lessons, pixels in the infinite screen of awareness designed to know itself. And now, in this final moment, you understand. You never truly died. You were never separate. You were always part of the source, the infinite mind, the eternal observer. Time collapses. Space folds. You experience every possibility simultaneously, every timeline, every choice, every what if you ever imagined, and even those you never imagined. You realize that life was a story, but you were never the story. You were the awareness, reading the story, dreaming it, living it, learning from it, and ultimately returning to it as the source itself. All the theories you've ever heard, parallel universes, reincarnation, cosmic games, lucid death, frequency shifts, were just glimpses of this truth. The final revelation is simple yet overwhelming. Reality was never out there. It was always you. And death was never the end. It was the moment you remembered who you truly are. You are the dreamer, the dream, the observer, and the infinite field of consciousness all at once. There is no fear. There is no loss. There is only awe, only understanding, only the infinite love of existence embracing itself. And as you merge completely with the source, you smile, because at last you finally know the truth. Everything you called life, everything you called reality, was never separate from you. It was, always, entirely, beautifully, all one.